In Chapter 8, we look at relationships that adolescents have with other family members. Parents of adolescents, there are some unique characteristics of effective parents. First, parents need to make a connection with their adolescents. They should also promote psychological autonomy and then regulation. Connection is a warm, stable, loving, attentive bond between the parent and the child. Psychological autonomy is allowing the child to have some freedom, to have privacy, make some decisions for themselves. And then regulation is how well parents monitor and supervise the child's behavior. There are numerous benefits to parents who have a warm, stable bond with their teenagers. These teens will have close relationships with their parents, and this connection actually helps them academically and socially. These adolescents are less likely to have depression and behavioral problems. Over time, parents and teens do spend less time together, but although adolescents still seek advice from their parents, so even though this emotional support does decrease, they still need their parents. How close of a connection children have with their parents can depend on birth order and also spacing between other children in the family. Adolescents and their parents are less likely to express warmth to each other than children and their parents. Despite this, adolescents do want and need these expressions from their parents. They want that caring relationship, but it's not going to be as close as it was when we were children. Adolescents do want unconditional positive regard. They want to believe that their parents love them unconditionally. And then trust is very important in these family relationships. Adolescents desire for their parents to trust them. Then with autonomy, we know that autonomy means independence. And so separation individuation is the process within which adolescents try to establish this individuality, but yet still maintain a connectedness with their parents. There's two aspects of autonomy, behavioral and emotional. Behavioral being acting independent, acting on their own without help, and then emotional being free from childish emotional actions. Connectedness and cohesion are complementary features of family relationships. There is a balance needed. Sometimes some families are too close, and sometimes families are not close enough. Two terms that are used are enmeshed. Enmeshed families are where there's too much connectedness with each other, where families are always together and always involved in each other's lives. And then disengaged is where they actually don't do anything together and actually don't know anything about the other person. Regulation. Diana Baumrind is an influential theorist on parenting styles, and what she believed is that the amount of control and warmth that a parent shows toward their child will influence their parenting style. There are four main combinations of parenting styles, according to Baumrind. Authoritative parents have high levels of control and structure, and also high levels of warmth. Authoritarian parents are the strict parents. They have high levels of control, but low on the warmth. Permissive parents are low on control, but high on warmth. And then uninvolved parents are just what it says they are, as they are uninvolved. It is widely accepted that authoritative parenting is the optimal parenting style. It does tend to produce the best child as far as independence, responsibility, decision making, that kind of thing. Authoritative parents use induction, which is a technique which allows the child to talk about what happened, and together the child and parent determine consequences of behaviors, and what could have been done better next time. Authoritarian parents, like I said before, are the very, very strict parents. They rely heavily on punishment. Oftentimes what you have with authoritarian parents is adolescents tend to be very hostile, and they also tend to rebel because they're not allowed any independence in decision making. For permissive parents, children of permissive parents, the thing is, children need guidance. And so oftentimes, because these children are not getting any rules or help with making decisions, they're overindulged. Oftentimes, these children have a very, very hard time with self-control, also a hard time with authority. And so oftentimes these children are very unhappy. So again, the authoritative parent is the one in the middle, and so this is the one that tends to produce the best children. Parent-adolescent tension. This is normal part of development for parents and adolescents to have some tension because adolescents are trying to be independent. And depending on how well the parent can deal with this, independence will depend a lot on how well they come through this tension. Oftentimes parents set guidelines for the adolescent that they may not like, and so oftentimes the tension is over minor bickering type things. There are a number of reasons why conflict arises. Sometimes it's because parents are critical. It could be that parents are putting too much stress or pressure on the adolescent, disagreement about behaviors or what is socially acceptable. All of these are typical conflicts that you'll see with a parent and an adolescent. Some conflict is normal and can even be healthy for teens. Abnormal conflict is conflict that is constant and intense. Like I said before, minor bickering, minor disagreements are very normal within the parent and adolescent relationship. When it is extreme and when it is constant is when you will see psychological issues between the adolescent and the parent. And then siblings, relationships with other family members. Siblings can be a very important relationship with an adolescent. These relationships can influence development. Older adolescents can serve as a model for younger adolescents, and then also adolescents can look to their older siblings for guidance and as role models. And then grandparents have a profound influence on adolescents. They give adolescents a sense of continuity. They can actually give adolescent information about their own parents and just give that support that they may not get from their parents, or a different kind of support from their parents. Different types of grandparenting. You have influential grandparents who are highly involved with their grandchildren. Supportive grandparents are involved, but they do not discipline their grandchildren. Passive grandparents maybe see their grandkids about once a month or so. Authority-oriented see their role as providing wisdom, but they're distant. And then detached grandparents do not know their grandchildren. The chapter ends by talking about maltreatment. Some of the definitions that you would want to know that relate to maltreatment: child abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and then child neglect. Physical abuse being that of physical violence against a child, such as hitting or burning. Sexual abuse would be that of sexual activity with a child, and we see this unfortunately in adolescence, mainly because these children have developed an adult body, so that does make them a target sometimes for adults to treat them sexually. Incest, of course, is a family person who is having sexual activity with a teenager or a child. And then neglect is where we do not take care of the needs of the child. And so there can be physical neglect, emotional neglect, intellectual neglect, social and moral neglect. Any of those primary needs of the child, if they are not being met, that would be considered neglect.